Sophie has never been the kind of royal who seeks headlines. She rarely gives controversial interviews, rarely engages in public disputes, and almost never responds to criticism. Yet despite her quiet nature, many royal observers believe her actions over years have revealed exactly how she felt about Meghan Markle. From private mentoring attempts to public appearances that sparked endless debate, Sophie's relationship with Meghan has remained one of the most discussed royal dynamics in recent years. And while Sophie never openly criticized Meghan, many people believe she didn't have to. Her actions may have spoken louder than words. When Meghan Markle married Prince Harry and officially entered royal life, she stepped into one of the most demanding institutions in the world. To outsiders, becoming a royal might seem glamorous. The castles, the titles, the ceremonies, the global attention. But behind the scenes, royal life is governed by traditions, expectations, and responsibilities that have developed over centuries. Every public appearance is analyzed. Every statement is scrutinized. Every decision can become an international headline. Queen Elizabeth understood this better than anyone. She had seen many people marry into the royal family over the decades, and she knew that adjusting to royal life was never easy. That is why reports suggested that she wanted Meghan to have someone she could trust, someone who had already walked the same path, someone who understood exactly what it felt like to enter the monarchy as an outsider. That person was Sophie. At first glance, Sophie seemed like the perfect choice. Unlike many senior royals, she was not born into royalty. She had built a normal life before marrying Prince Edward. She understood what it felt like to enter an unfamiliar world filled with ancient traditions and strict expectations. She also understood how overwhelming the public spotlight could be. In her early years as a royal, Sophie faced her own challenges. She made mistakes. She learned difficult lessons. She experienced intense media scrutiny. But instead of walking away, she adapted. Year after year, she built trust within the royal family and earned a reputation as one of its most reliable members. By the time Meghan arrived, Sophie had become one of the monarchy's most respected working royals. That experience made her uniquely qualified to help. According to multiple reports, Sophie welcomed the opportunity. Royal commentators have claimed that she spent significant time with Meghan during the early days of her royal journey. The goal was simple: help Meghan understand the realities of royal life, explain the traditions, share personal experiences, offer guidance, provide support, and perhaps most importantly, help her avoid some of the mistakes that many newcomers make. Reports suggest Sophie approached the situation with genuine kindness. She allegedly shared lessons she had learned throughout her own journey and made it clear that she was available whenever Meghan needed advice. To many observers, this looked like the beginning of a valuable mentorship. It seemed like the perfect arrangement. A successful royal outsider helping another royal outsider. But things apparently did not develop as expected. As time passed, reports began emerging that the relationship never became particularly close. Some sources suggested that Meghan preferred handling things her own way. Others claimed that communication between the two never evolved beyond the early stages. Regardless of the exact details, one thing became increasingly clear: the strong mentorship many expected never fully materialized. For royal watchers, this was surprising. After all, Sophie represented something valuable: experience, perspective, understanding. She knew exactly how difficult royal life could be, and she knew how long the adjustment process often takes. Years later, Sophie would reflect on her own experience entering the royal family. She spoke about how it took years to fully adapt to royal life. Many commentators viewed those remarks as significant, not because she mentioned Meghan directly. She didn't, but because the contrast was impossible to ignore. Sophie's transition had taken years. Meghan's time as a working royal lasted only a fraction of that. As public interest surrounding Harry and Meghan continued growing, the pressure surrounding the couple intensified. Every appearance became a major news story. Every interview generated debate. Every decision sparked discussion. The relationship between Harry and Meghan and the wider royal family quickly became one of the most analyzed topics in the world. And as tensions appeared to increase, people began paying closer attention to reactions of other royals, including Sophie. One event that attracted enormous attention was Commonwealth Day 2020. At the time, Harry and Meghan were preparing to step back from royal duties. The atmosphere surrounding the event was already tense. Media outlets around the world were closely watching every interaction, every smile, every glance, every movement. Body language experts immediately began analyzing footage from the event. Many pointed to interactions involving Sophie. Some commentators claimed she appeared distant. Others argued that observers were reading too much into normal behavior. As often happens with royal stories, interpretations varied dramatically. But one thing was certain. The footage generated enormous discussion. For weeks, articles and videos dissected every second of those interactions. People debated whether there was tension, whether relationships had changed, whether deeper issues existed behind the scenes. The truth, of course, remains known only to those directly involved. But public curiosity continued growing. Then came the interview that changed everything. Harry and Meghan's conversation with Oprah Winfrey became one of the most talked about television events in modern royal history. The interview generated headlines across the globe. Supporters praised the couple for speaking openly. Critics questioned several of their claims. News organizations spent weeks analyzing every statement. The public debate became intense. And inevitably, attention turned toward the rest of the royal family. People wanted reactions, responses, opinions. They wanted to know what everyone thought, including Sophie and Prince Edward. When asked about the interview, their response quickly became a major talking point. Rather than offering a detailed public reaction, they responded with humor. Their remarks immediately attracted attention. Some people saw the comments as lighthearted. Others interpreted them as subtle criticism. The response quickly spread through newspapers, television programs, and social media. For many royal commentators, the moment became one of the most memorable reactions to the interview, not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't said. There was no lengthy statement, no emotional rebuttal, no dramatic confrontation, just a brief response that allowed people to draw their own conclusions. That approach perfectly reflected Sophie's public style. Calm, measured, controlled, she rarely engaged in public disputes. Instead, she allowed her actions to speak for themselves. Over time, this approach helped strengthen her reputation. While other royal stories generated controversy, Sophie continued focusing on her duties. She maintained a busy schedule of engagements. She supported charitable organizations. She represented the monarchy without attracting unnecessary drama. Many royal supporters admired that consistency. In a world increasingly driven by attention and publicity, Sophie remained remarkably low profile. As years passed, public comparisons between Sophie and Meghan became increasingly common. Commentators frequently highlighted their different approaches. Sophie's strategy focused on patience and gradual adaptation. Meghan's approach appeared more independent and modern. Neither path was guaranteed to succeed, but the differences were impossible to ignore. For royal analysts, those differences became central to understanding the broader story. One woman chose to remain within the institution. The other chose to leave it. One spent decades adapting to royal life. The other ultimately decided it wasn't the right fit. Those contrasting journeys fueled endless discussion. And throughout it all, Sophie rarely commented publicly. That silence became part of her image. Supporters viewed it as professionalism. Critics sometimes viewed it as distance. But regardless of interpretation, it remained effective. She stayed focused on her responsibilities while public debates continued around her. Then another major milestone arrived. Prince Edward and Sophie were granted the titles Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. The announcement carried significant historical importance. The title has a long and respected place within royal history. For Sophie, it represented recognition of years of service, years spent supporting the monarchy, years spent carrying out engagements, years spent earning public trust. Many royal supporters celebrated the moment. They viewed it as a well-deserved acknowledgement of dedication and loyalty. The timing also attracted attention because it came after Harry and Meghan's departure from royal duties. Inevitably, comparisons resurfaced once again. Media outlets revisited old stories. Commentators re-examined previous events. The discussion surrounding Sophie and Meghan continued. Yet despite years of speculation, public interest, and constant analysis, one thing remains remarkable. Sophie has never launched public attacks. She has never sat down for explosive interviews discussing Meghan. She has never written public statements criticizing her. She has never participated in highly publicized media battles. Instead, she has maintained the same approach she has always used: quiet professionalism. Whether people interpret that as strength, diplomacy, restraint, or strategy depends entirely on their perspective. But there is no denying that it has shaped her public image. Today, Sophie is widely viewed as one of the monarchy's most dependable figures. She has spent decades building that reputation. And while debates surrounding Meghan and Harry continue to dominate headlines from time to time, Sophie remains focused on a role she has carried out for years. Perhaps that is why the story continues to fascinate so many people. Because it isn't really about dramatic public confrontations. It is about two very different journeys, two very different approaches, and two women whose paths crossed during one of the most closely watched periods in modern royal history. Whether Sophie was quietly expressing her feelings through subtle actions or simply carrying out her duties, as always, is something people will likely continue debating for years to come. But one thing is certain: the story has become a lasting chapter in modern royal history. And as new developments continue to emerge, interest in that chapter shows no sign of fading anytime soon.